say, this is what you're going to say when
The Felicia Legette Jack era is here. The Syracuse women's basketball team has a new coach. We'll hear what she has to say in our sports report.
And we dive into the reason why your favorite snacks are not on the shelves. Our Ari Horton talked to experts to see why.
And we need to talk about the slap that shocked Hollywood at the 94th Oscars. All that and more coming up on Mornings on the Hill.
Good morning, Allison Turner. Thanks for joining us for Mornings on the Hill.
And I'm Miles Hood. Here's a look at some of the stories we'll be talking about this morning.
Our top story this hour, Russia and Ukraine are discussing possible ceasefire. Our Morgan Scott joins us with just how the two sides may come together.
Officials from Ukraine and Russia are now discussing a possible ceasefire after Ukrainian forces were successful in pushing Russia in capital cities like Kyiv. I spoke with Russian politics expert and professor to see if this must be any sign of a big change.
Vladimir Putin is trying to bring Ukraine under Russian domination and control. It's not clear if that means trying to absorb the territory of Ukraine, trying to absorb part of the territory of Ukraine, but he's made it very clear in statements over the years, including earlier this year, that he believes Ukrainians and Russians are one people and that it's only natural that Ukraine and Russia be in some sense politically together.
This comes just after President Biden refused to apologize after he said that Putin cannot remain in power, a statement that he says comes from personal outrage and should not be considered as anything else. Reporting live, I'm Morgan Scott for Mornings on the Hill.
Your brackets may be busted, but you definitely aren't the only one. Our Thomas Cook tells us just how many people got into the madness.
When March Madness began, you probably filled out one of these. Let's be honest, your bracket now is completely busted. Hey, maybe you just tossed it out the window, ripped it up, or, well, threw it away. Nearly 40 million Americans filled out either a men's or women's NCAA March Madness bracket this year. That totals over 70 million complete brackets filled out. On ESPN's Tournament Challenge, close to 20 million people submitted a bracket in hopes of nailing a perfect bracket and winning $100,000. Now, just how hard is it to hit a perfect bracket? According to NCAA.com, you have 1 in a 120 million chance of getting every pick right. And close to $10 billion will be bet on this year's Madness, according to the National Gambling Association. In the newsroom, Thomas Cook, Mornings on the Hill.
Thank you, Thomas. Man, I know my bracket was busted. But do you know the feeling when you make a grocery list? You know, you head to the store and you go to the shelf where you think that thing you've been craving usually is, but you find an out-of-stock sticker or a limit on what you can buy or simply an empty shelf? Well, our Ari Horton has more on the root of the problem that's been affecting millions.
Yeah, so why have items been hard to come by lately, and when can you expect things to go back to normal? Since the start of the pandemic, shoppers have been burdened with the word shortage. You know, toilet paper, pet food, weekly groceries, but is there actually a shortage on the products, or is there something else going on?
Well, in the case of what's going on right now, the ports are a bit of a bottleneck. And so there's a lot of reasons for what caused this. And a lot of it stems from the pandemic.
The bottlenecks at the port is where the problem starts. It creates a backup and slows down the process of products making their way to the store. Well, what causes a bottleneck?
So you can think of a bottleneck as an hourglass. You've got a whole bunch of suppliers at the top, and then it all funnels down to like a very narrow area where everything's got to go through, and then it all goes out to thousands of people that buy it. And that bottleneck is a choke point in the process.
After the ships are unloaded, though, the containers sit at the ports for a longer time than usual because there is also a driver shortage. So it's not that there is a food shortage, but rather a labor shortage all around.
They were actually making more money on the government subsidies than they were with their normal paycheck. And so now when the subsidies ended, they refused to go back to work at the same salary that they were making before the pandemic.
Before your products can go from places like this onto trucks to make it to shelves like these, there has to be enough packaging material like plastic. And because of the labor shortage, there's not.
Here over the winter, you couldn't find Gatorade on the shelf. I mean, it's like, is there a run on Gatorade or something? There wasn't a run on Gatorade. They couldn't make the bottles to put the Gatorade in because they couldn't get the plastic pellets.
Shortages are causing cost increases and inflations. The supply is small and the demand is big. And to make sure that they're seeing their profits, companies are increasing their prices. So Professor LaPointe told me that he doesn't expect to see prices drop down to the normal levels here in the short term. He expects this problem to sort of linger around for a little while. So while that's not good news, at least you know why you can't find your usual items at the store. For Mornings on the Hill, I'm Ari Horton.
This entire month on Mornings on the Hill, we've been honoring the accomplishments of women locally and beyond for Women's History Month. And to close out the month, our Nia Lucky found a woman-owned business who's trying to bring comfort to the community through tea. Nia?
Yes, thank you, Allison. I recently sat and spoke down with Cassia Hills and we spilled the tea. It was all sweet and good, of course, but she shared with me how it takes a village to start a business. Cassia Hills opened 210 Teas, which once started as a COVID project, but is now a storefront. All right, well, that's technical difficulties for you, but I spoke with Cassia and she recommended some of her tea blends. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. I had it. It was paired with the lemon macaroon, and boy, was it delicious. Nia Lucky, Mornings on the Hill.
Live TV, there's nothing like it. But coming up here on Mornings on the Hill,
We're a couple weeks into spring, but it hasn't felt like it so far. Calvin Cristoforo has you covered with a weather update when we come back. Time to check your weather for today.
Calvin Cristoforo is live in studio to tell us what to expect. What's on the menu, man?
Well, guys, the menu is something you're not going to like. 20 degrees outside, it only feels like 12. Not good in what's supposed to be springtime here in Syracuse. We're nearing the end of March and the temperatures are still really low. And here's the worst part as we look ahead to what we're going to see later today. You might be seeing some more of that white stuff. Some snow might be coming in town as we switch over to our day planner. Look, this morning, a little bit of chance of rain. This afternoon, wind. You might get a chance of up to 16-mile-an-hour gusts of winds. Really just not going to cut it this time of year tonight. Going to get down to about 14 degrees. The good news is no rain perhaps on the menu later this evening. But when we look ahead to our 5-day forecast, well, it's not good. You see the precipitation numbers here, 50%, 40%, 80%, and 40%. You look at Thursday's numbers, it's going to get up to 65 degrees, but the rain is going to be coming down and coming down hard. Luckily, the storm drains around this city are a little bit cleaned up than they were a week ago, but really windy today, a chance of snow today, a chance of snow once again tomorrow. Rain and wind coming in the next couple of days, Thursday, Friday. Here's the good news. You might have a pretty nice Saturday on your hands, 42 degrees and sunny on Saturday. Perfect time for the Syracuse men's lacrosse game. Only problem is they're on the road. So it's going to be a nice day Saturday. Rest of the week, well, not so nice. And I'm not only upset about it, but there's some other students around campus that are really upset about it as well. Our Lauren Helmbrick went to students around campus, and they're frustrated about this fake spring facade. Lauren, what do you got? What are the kids saying? It's not good around town.
That's right, Calvin. So students definitely don't have a spring in their step after this late March snow. And that's because, like you said, there's a phenomenon around Syracuse called fake spring. So fake spring comes after you have a warm front. You get in the mindset that, oh, it's warming up here in town. It was about 60 and 70 a couple weeks ago. And then here you go, you get another cold front and a couple inches of snow.
About fake spring in Syracuse?
I hate it. I want it to go away. I want it to get warmer. I don't like it, but it is what it is.
It's always a surprise, but you got to get used to the weather because it's always unpredictable.
It's annoying, and I'm sick of it.
I had my hopes up. I started to enjoy myself, get a little more confident, and then, walk outside, and I had to go back inside to get a jacket because it was so cold. So not feeling too good about it, but we got a few more weeks left, so.
So how do you feel about fake spring? Tweet at us at Morning on the Hill without the G to let us know. Do you love the winter snow that's in the springtime, or are you looking forward to some warmer weather? Live from University Avenue for Mornings on the Hill, I'm Lauren Helmbrecht.
Thank you, Lauren and Calvin. Robert Newlander has been found guilty on all charges during a landmark case in the area. But have you ever wondered what goes into getting that story on air? Our James Catato is here to let you know what goes into reporting before it hits your screens.
Miles, Allison, thank you. So we run the news right here in the newsroom on the college level. But what happens when a legacy station in the area on a professional scale covers one of the biggest stories that Syracuse has ever seen? Me and a familiar face to Mornings on the Hill might have some answers for you. We're here in the neighborhood of convicted murderer Robert Newlander.
If you're unsure, this was a landmark case in the city of Syracuse where he delivered over 10,000 babies.
Yeah, KP, this is unique because there was a retrial that happened that just took place because in the first trial, a jury member leaked valuable information about the case before the verdict was even released.
So with the rarity of a case like this, how does a news team go about covering what happened here
to here? KP, this is a new trial, different courthouse. This is the old courthouse in the city of Syracuse where this current Newlander trial took place. The first Newlander trial took place a little bit further in downtown Syracuse at the new courthouse, but don't get it twisted, this one has definitely seen some action too.
Yeah, one reporter from News Channel 9 has been here since day one covering this unique retrial, and he says the dedication starts from when he's assigned the story.
While you're only a temporary expert and only kind of a superficial expert, you need to sound credible, you need to know kind of who the players are in the area.
It's easy to gloss over the amount of time put into a story that airs on the news. Even though something on your screen might only be a minute, it takes Donovan much longer.
The 90 seconds somebody might see me on television at the end of the day is about 9 hours of work and preparation before that minute. That's the end of the day. That is the time running out on the game clock. There were 4 quarters of game before I even get to the camera.
Donovan's work on screen is what you see, but what about behind the scenes and how someone decides where to put this story in a broadcast?
There's a lot of work at the station too, beyond what I'm doing here.
And that happens here at News Channel 9.
I love the concept of writing and stacking and organizing, and when you think about it, isn't that what producing is?
Christina Galvin is a producer right here at News Channel 9, and she says that the communication that goes back and forth between Donovan and the rest of the station allows for a credible story to be quickly delivered to the viewer.
For the Newlander trial, it worked so much so that our team was in place by the time that he was guilty.
Galvin says because the time of a verdict is so unpredictable, you need to stay on your toes.
You guys are clear, thank you. We may sleep, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes 9 hours, but the news doesn't sleep.
Which makes for an informed and educated broadcast by the time you wake up.
Because when you think about it, the reporter is your eyes and ears in that circumstance. So you want to have the most trust in them that they will be able to tell you everything that's going on in there so you can relay it to not only the rest of the newsroom, but to your viewers.
If you see a big case being covered, remember that it doesn't just pop up on your TV.
Because Newhouse knows, and now you do too.
Caitlin works at Channel 9 right now. She's a producer there, so big thanks to the crew over there and her as well for helping to make this happen. In the newsroom, James Catato, Mornings on the Hill.
Prolonged grief disorder has been added to the DSM, which is often referred to as the psychologist's Bible. This mental disorder is characterized by grief that impacts day-to-day life for longer than 1 year for adults and 6 months for children. And while SU Psychological Center's clinic director, Dr. Afton Kapazinski, says she doesn't know why they chose those cutoffs, she does know.
People are suffering badly, and I think that's one of the reasons that those who were proponents of it were pushing hard, because they're aware that there's a small subset of people who experience this intense, prolonged grief reaction. It's probably like, I think the estimate I saw was maybe like 10% of people who lost a close loved one.
In addition to the DSM is rare, and this one has been over 10 years in the making. Researchers found that grief-targeted therapy showed improvements in daily life, but also found antidepressants didn't relieve symptoms for those diagnosed. And with the inclusion of prolonged grief, those who experience it can now receive accommodations if recommended by their doctor.
Coming up on Mornings on the Hill, women's basketball has a new head coach. Our Caitlin McCarthy has what that means to the team and more. Stay with us.
Bye, Felicia. How about hello, Felicia? Syracuse welcomes Felicia Leggett-Jack as its new women's basketball head coach. Leggett-Jack played for the Orange from 1984 to 1989, and over 30 years later, she still ranks 10th all-time in points and rebounds at Syracuse. In November, Leggett-Jack became from the rafters. Number 33 will forever be in the Dome, and it's kind of iconic she returns to Syracuse 33 years later. Leggett-Jack says she's ready to go to work.
Back, all right, and get into those stands and financially support what we're doing and tell the world that, you know, it never went away. It never went away.
And in other basketball news, the undefeated Syracuse Stallions took on the 3-4 Tri-State Admirals. Skipping right to the action with 11 seconds to go, Christian Nobles attempts a three but doesn't get it. The rebound stays with Syracuse out of bounds, and this game's getting a little intense. And one last shot, Philip Flory gets the three-pointer with just 2.5 seconds, ties this one at 105. One last to go, so we're headed to overtime. And the middle schoolers, they're loving this one. And Syracuse, Stephen Hurt, he missed the shot, but the Admirals, Elijah Bush, passes it over to Tyree White, and the Admirals are down 1. But they get it right back, and the Admirals, Tyree White again gets it to lead, and the Stallions had one last chance, but the Admirals took it away, and Stallions will face the Atlantic City Gabriels next week. And the Syracuse women's lacrosse are 8th win of the season over, beating them 22-7. And it was no surprise it was the Tyrell sisters that led the way. Both Megan and Emma had 5 goals apiece, and Megan Tyrell also added 5 assists, moving into 5th place all-time at Syracuse University in the victory. The Orange will play tonight in the Dome and take on 6th-ranked Loyola at 6 p.m. And spring football is in full swing, and our Calvin Milliner is live to tell us more.
Thank you, Caitlin. Syracuse football is back for a good time and not a long time. Syracuse is gearing up for the Orange and Blue game in the Dome this Friday at 7 p.m. This is a team looking to improve from last season. After a disappointing final 3 games last season, the Orange are looking to correct their missed opportunities this offseason. The team added 5 new coaches, which includes an offensive coordinator and a special teams coordinator. The team also added players through the transfer portal. Syracuse head coach Dino Baber sees the team making major strides in spring ball.
Just the energy, these guys grabbing it. No matter what we're doing on offense, no matter what we're doing on defense, we have to be extremely physical. So this is going to be a physical spring. Our numbers are higher than they've ever been, thanks to COVID-13 and all the other things that go along with the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness and all those things. So if we've got the big numbers, we want to make sure that it's a very, very taxing spring, so we'll be extremely physical.
The Orange struggled to get the ball downfield last year, and it is all up to Syracuse quarterback Garrett Schrader and how he improves this offseason.
Every year I've kind of had to learn something new, so there's never a point in time early on where you're like, okay, I got it. And that'll come in the summer after we're done with this, and then we continue to move on. But today I felt a little bit better, seeing things a little bit quicker, and still got a long way to go. And I turned the ball over a couple times a day, but just continue to learn and not make those mistakes again.
Friday Night Lights in the Dome at 7 p.m. For Mornings on the Hill, I'm Calvin Milliner.
Still to come here on Mornings on the Hill. If you thought we weren't going to talk about the Oscars, you are terribly mistaken.
And the return of Miles at a popular Syracuse brunch spot. Stay with us, that story and more just ahead.
Now, over the weekend was the 94th Annual Academy Awards held at Hollywood's Dolby Theater. The biggest night in film was hosted by Amy Schumer, Regina Hall, and Wanda Sykes. But before we get into all the chaos, there were several highlights of the night that are worth acknowledging. The big winner was the film Coda that took home Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Supporting Actor. Troy Kutzer took home the award and made history by becoming the first deaf man to win an Academy Award. Additionally, the film Doom took home 6 Academy Awards, including Best Cinematography. Other night include Rose for Best Supporting Actress, Jane Campion for Best Director, and Summer of Soul for the Best Documentary Feature. There were several show-stopping performances, including Queen Bee, who made us feel good to be alive. Beyonce performed from the soundtrack of King Richard, live from the tennis courts of Compton, California. She was joined by Blue Ivy, Demi Singleton, and Sanaya Sidney, who played the young Venus and Serena Williams. And although we don't talk about Bruno, we are talking about the winner of the Best Animated Feature's incredible performance. Encanto graced the stage, and it included a surprise appearance from Megan Thee Stallion. And now for the slap heard around the world. Will Smith got in one little fight, and who knows if his mom got scared, but the audience was definitely on edge after he slapped Chris Rock across the face for making a joke about his wife. Audio that was cut from television has circled social media where Will demanded Rock keep his wife's name out of his mouth. Now Smith, who still took home Best Actor for his portrayal in King Richard, has released an apology to Chris Rock almost 24 hours later. He took to Instagram to release this statement, which noted his unacceptable and inexcusable. The Academy has also condemned his actions and have begun a formal review surrounding the incident. No details have been released yet on whether or not consequences will be issued to Will Smith, but I want to hear from what you all think. Head on over to Twitter and tell us what you think the next steps from the Academy should be. Tweet us at Morning on the Hill without the G and let us know. Back to you, Miles and Allison.
Wow, listen, that was a wild night. Oh my God, the slap. I tuned in like 2 minutes before that, and it was insane.
I just missed it, and then I started looking at Twitter and I said, wait a minute, what just happened here?
And finally this morning, we have another delicious dabble into local eats. Miles, I heard you went beyond Marshall Street.
Yes, I did. Listen, Mealtime took me to Westcott neighborhood, and that's where the food and fun never stops. Let's take a look. Yes, diners, movie theaters, and a whole lot more. Rise and Shine Diner is on a mission to bring a new look to American classics. Breakfast, brunch, and burgers. And listen, before I could even sit down, the customers were instantly past the vibe check. The music was bumping and the food slapped harder than Will Smith did, actually. Now they had burgers aplenty like this one, topped with cheddar cheese and eggs. Alongside of that, my friends got some loaded fried green tomatoes, and man, everything was golden and delicious. But the creme de la creme had to be this eggs benny flight. 3 different styles of the brunch staples that were awesome. Now the place was decorated with interesting neon signs and vines, and it made me feel like I was in a fairy tale. A music-filled fairy tale, you know, a Saturday brunch kind of thing.
Miles, that looked incredible. I've actually never been to Rise and Shine, so seeing that makes me really want to go.
Oh, you should go, and definitely go on Saturday. The music bumps, the drinks slap, and listen, the food, mwah.
Out of everything you tried, what do you recommend?
What would I recommend? I'd probably recommend definitely the Eggs Benny Flight. My friend got the Rise and Shine burger. That was really cool. And the DJ was really cool. He had this man bun thing. I think I might have to try that for next show.
I mean, it's definitely a look.
Well, listen, that's going to do it here for us this Tuesday on Mornings on the Hill. I'm Miles Hood. Follow us on social media.
And I'm Allison Turner. Thanks for watching Orange Nation. We'll see you next Tuesday live at 10 a.m. right here on OTN. And don't forget to tune in on Friday. Have a good day, Orange Nation.